is up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of the Real Paint Talks of PSC. So, been a hot minute since I've been in the bucket here. I've been going through a ton of work, and we've been grinding to get this stuff done before the holidays and before Christmas. And you know how it goes, things like that. Just trying to get everything cleared up and settled so we can start our year off fresh. Man, has it been quite the year so far, hey? I hope everyone's doing well and everyone's staying safe and healthy, and best to you and yours, because, you know, it's a crazy world right now. Crazy world. And we just have to learn to adjust, I guess, and go with sort of this new norm for the time being. So once again, hope everyone's well. And I've been busy, so I've been not able to put too many of these out, but back in the hot seat now, and I'm going to pump a few of these out for you guys, and working on some cool things that really might be able to help you guys for the long haul in the long run. So stay tuned, because I got lots of stuff coming out, because I have a little bit of time off now. So I'm working on this, and I'm working on some other things in shop. Just like I said, taking a much needed rest. So I thought I'd come on today and talk about something that I'm sure a lot of people know about, and might have said the saying and used it even on their own. And I want to talk about the topic of the customer always being right. Is the customer always right? You know, and you can go and look that up online, and it's going to tell you so many things about it, who popularized it. You know, it's been pioneered from big time retail guys, even from way back in the day. You know, Harry Gordon, Selfridge, John Wanamaker, Marshall Field, all guys big time in the retail industry. You know, and everyone, not everyone, different countries around the world have even used this saying. All over, the French have one, le client ne jamais tort. I'm not the best in French, but the customer is never wrong, you know, which the hotelier Cesar Ritz used to say all the time, you know, the guy that started like the Ritz and stuff like that in New York. He also said, if a diner complains about a dish or wine, immediately remove it and replace it with no questions asked, you know. And there's a variation of frequently used sayings like this. There's one in Japan. I'm not even going to try and pronounce it. I wrote it down, but it's the customer is God. There's another one from Germany, is the customer is king. So really what I want to talk about today, guys, is that true, especially with such a high service game that we run as painters? Is that true? Do you feel that way? Do you feel like the customer is always right? Because there can be a number of reasons that I found that isn't so true, you know, not to say that the customer is wrong, but at the same time to think that the customer might not know all the things they need to know about certain situations, certain trades, certain products, certain materials that the professional might know. So I think really, in my opinion, you know, I did customer service jobs even when I was young, especially in the food industry. That's a really, really big one, because in the food industry, they use that saying a lot. And it is probably one of the hardest industries, especially the client and the customer really have the advantage over you. You know, you're waiting on them, you're serving them. So that's really going to come down to, you know, the restaurant game, the waiting game, the customer service game. So, you know, coming up and working in a few restaurants and stuff like that, you know, working at a car dealership, you start to see different things about that situation that can make it not so right in some senses, but also get you out of situations in a way where everyone, including the business, really can capitalize off that experience if it goes well, right? So I do believe that the customer is always right, in the sense when it comes to customer service. If they're paying their hard-earned money for something, I do think that it needs to be a service given to them in a way that they need to feel good about it. You know, they're putting their money up, right? There can be many aspects and times that the client is for sure wrong. You know, and it makes me think about the situation with painting, especially, where it's like, well, the client wants to buy their own paint, or the client thinks they know what paint brand is best, or the client says they've seen something and, you know, I seen him do them like this, I seen somebody else do it like that. So I think the hard thing about it for us as painters is we really need to start educating the customer more than anything. And I've even said this, chatting with other painters online, even about how it comes down to the way we treat each other, because it's not always our faults. You know, it's if the customer doesn't know, if the client doesn't know, if they don't know anything about the product, they don't know anything about what they're getting, then do they really feel, they probably really feel that they have the upper hand and they can maybe wiggle it in their favor sometimes. You know what I mean? So you got to be really careful about that, because the client, like some of these guys were saying when I looked it up on Wikipedia, the client is going to have that upper hand on you sometimes. The customer service game is a tough one. They have the upper hand on you, right? And you want to do what's best for them. They're going to give you their money at the end of the day, So it's hard because there's inevitable losses that can happen, whether it's coming with your time, if you're going over and above, if you're putting in an extra step because the customer wants it. So the danger in all that is not being prepared as a professional, not just as a painter, as a tradesman, as a professional, as a businessman, businesswoman. We need to be professional and know, especially your product, and know your competition, because it's those things that are going to come down to, it's like, well, I seen this guy do it like this and he's charging like this. So it's like knowing your competition, but like I said in my other podcast, guys, knowing your value, where you sit, what you can put out and what you can give. Okay. So once that's all agreed upon and you go into something, thinking that, okay, I'm going to knock this one out of the park. And let's be real. Here's one of the things that I've found in my experience, that some people are never happy, and really, here's another good piece of advice. Really get good at trying to sniff clients out. Every time I go into a quote, or if I'm getting with a GC or a builder, or if I'm subcontracting, I'm really trying to feel the person out, because they're going to, it's like poker. They're going to give you tells in terms of like, okay, how could this go? Is this person trustworthy? Because that's one of the things that these, pioneering fathers of this customer is always right saying, that's one thing that, that they really speak a lot about, because there are going to be dishonest customers, whether they know about their product, the craft, the job they're getting, whether they know about it, they're just dishonest people out there. They're going to try and get whatever they can for as little as they can. It's like I said in the one post there I posted on Instagram, guys, check it out at topline_PSC. You can see that post where it says, and this was great advice from a businessman that tried to help me grow my business a long time ago. He said, people will get away with whatever you let them get away with. So it works the same way with your customer. Yes, you want to be polite, respectful, and you want to stand your ground and come off as intelligent and professional, because you want to be able to sell the job you've probably already sold to them. If they agreed on the price, but then it comes back to like, oh, it should be like this, it should be like that. If they're complaining, if it's not the way they wanted it or not the way they thought it was going to turn out, you have to be able to back yourself up on that. Because the one thing about it, guys, that's dangerous is that we are at their mercy a little bit, and there are things that, that's really bad about that as well, because what happens is if you kind of always treat the customer like they're right, it can really start other problems, that it can cause your employees not to be happy. It can cause you to take losses. You know what I mean? It's really bad for business. It doesn't look well. It just doesn't look good. And it's an abrasive, unfair advantage, that the customer has on you. So I guess what I'm saying is be prepared. Know yourself, know your company, know your job, and then also be ready to possibly take a loss or possibly say no to that job. Because there's the big one, you know what I mean? It's like feeling them out, like I was saying, and trying to figure out, okay, is this really the job I want? Is it worth it? Okay, they're giving me what I want to be paid. That's one thing. That can also be a little bit dangerous too, because it's like if you don't pay yourself, like get paid and whatever it might be, protect yourself in some way so you're not leaving all that money on the table for the job to be over, and then once again have to explain yourself and prove yourself. Because sometimes, like I said, some people are never happy. So you could do an amazing job and some people might not think so. That's probably because they want a deal, or maybe they think they could have got it for less. And it's funny because it makes me think too about some of the ways guys might run their scheduling. And with me, it's a little bit of a chess game, because there's always that saying as well too, that it's like, you're paying me for my experience, you're not paying me for my time. So if I quote a job to take 5 days and I do it in 4, sometimes clients for some reason think that just you get a deal on that 4th day. Well, you did it in this amount of time, so like, do I get a deal because you did it in less time than you quoted me? Well, no, because if I did it faster, that's an estimation, so you need to be able to back those things up. And I don't completely recall if I talked about this in the estimating or quoting podcast, because that's the big thing about it. Like you need to know how you're going in. You need to put the price in, put the quote in, estimate, whatever you want to call it, in a certain way and present it so your butt is covered in certain situations. If you do a certain amount and there's an agreement, like, okay, this amount's been done, you pay up to here, then we continue. Because like I said, if you just leave it all in their hands for the end to be like, okay, I'm good, like, job's done, how's it look? And it's like, oh, well, it's not that good. And you're like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean? So that stuff needs to be clarified in the beginning. I seen a post the other day. It was crazy. It was wild. The guy went back for his touch-up, and there were literally blue stickers, tape stickers everywhere. Like, even like probably 50 on one side of a man door. And it's like, from the picture, of course, what are we going to do? Which, by the way, a little disclaimer on that, I think we should really be careful right now on Instagram and social media and all these platforms out there. A lot of the big time guys that hire me, just because they see my photos online, they always want to come and see my work because it always looks good from far, and photos can be very deceiving. You know what I mean? So when I seen that post and there was 100 stickers on one door, there was probably like 1,000+ stickers in this, look like a basement. That to me is unreal. So it's like, before you start jumping to conclusions, you got to think, is it really that bad of a job? And then it's like, well, hold on. Like, what did they agree on? What did the client pay? What did they agree on? What was discussed? Is that written down somewhere? Is there some protection on you for that? Because at the end of the day, it's like, what's setting the bar there? The client? If it's not a GC or a builder or something like that, or someone that has this reputation of having good trades, good people that stand behind them, then it's a different story. You know what I mean? Because if it's like, okay, well, damn, you put all these stickers, sometimes you have these people in the middle that are defending you, being like, whoa, you're going overboard. I don't know, some places there's the 4-foot rule, right? Or 5-foot rule. And that's dependent on the type of job that you're getting. So here in the custom game, the high-end custom game, like when you're paying millions of dollars for a home, they don't really go by that. Some people want it perfect, which, another disclaimer, it's never perfect. You can get 98.9% quote unquote perfect on a job, but it's never perfect, especially when it's all handcrafted stuff, and especially when it's repaints. Cover your butt on that. It's never perfect. People are handcrafting this stuff. Your job's only going to be as good as what you got. So if the finisher or the carpenter or the drywaller or plaster or whoever was behind you did not do a great job, and you're not getting compensated to fix that, to get it to there, these are all the types of things that you need to set, like, make that line in the sand in that estimate, being like, listen, you're going to get this good of a job because this is what we're getting. Sometimes you're going into a job and you're not seeing that. You're not seeing those things beforehand. You know what I mean? So that can be scary. So like, that's why sometimes I like working for the GCs or the builders, because they got your back. You're saying like, hey, this isn't ready for me. You're going to get this, remember. And if they have a high standard set, for the reputation of that company, then you're only, everyone's going to want to agree, okay, yeah, it's got to be better. It's got to be like this. Then you can do your job. So I found with the repaint game or one-on-one clients, when it's the homeowner or something like that, that's a little bit more dangerous. So that's why I've said in the past that I don't really like doing the repaint game sometimes. I don't really like working one-on-one with the client in terms of them being like a homeowner. And a lot of people think, well, it's not as risky. I'm like, well, who's got more to lose? A builder who's building a reputation and wants more work from that person, who's going to open their mouth to their friend and say, hey, I got this builder or GC or somebody to do this job. Look how great they did. They had great trades backing them. That's one thing. No, some builders are definitely not like that. Some builders will take advantage of you just as hard as somebody who wants a deal. They all want a deal, but it just has to match up for what you're getting, right? But they're going to stand up for you. They're going to back you. They're going to protect you a little bit, because everyone's got this set bar, like I said, through the reputation of what people are seeing from this builder online, right? But when it comes to the homeowner doing a repaint, if they're not knowledgeable enough on any of it, like back to like them buying their own paint, well, I have the paint already, and it's like, oh man, do I want to get into this? And then you see like, oh, maybe that's just like a really nice, family that wants their house repainted, and they just so happen, somebody said, hey, yeah, no, go buy the paint, it's cheaper. So they go buy the paint and they try and paint it themselves, and they realize, oh, this is not for us. And they're really kind and true, and they're genuine and they're honest people. And you're like, okay, yeah, you tried to bite this off, you wanted to save some bucks, okay, cool, all right, I'll use the paint. Here's a bit of a disclaimer saying that we don't warranty it, blah, 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 blah. A lot of times, I shouldn't say a lot of times, but sometimes people are like that. And you're like, okay, I'm going to do these people a solid. Like, it was just poor people, they tried to do it. Okay, they have the leftover paint. Okay, fine. But then you have other people like, no, I got this paint because so-and-so and so said so. I'm going to get a better deal, so I want you to put it on. And then it's like, well, like, it might not be that better. Like, sometimes it's products that, you don't want to warranty your back. It's like always the good old Home Depot thing. It's like, well, you could go to the paint store and get a decent product from one of the paint stores. You can go to Home Depot and quote unquote get a decent product. Who knows? I have used them products before, a few of them, but it's not something that I would back. And then also, again, if it's coming from somewhere else and I never bought it, I never got the colors on this and that, it can be a little sticky. So once again, comes back to feeling that person out, being like, okay, do I really want to take this on? Then that also comes back, guys, to how professional are you? How passionate are you? How compassionate? Compassion's an even better word, even for what we do, because it's true. It's like, how are you feeling? Oh, like this person screwed up. They wanted to do it on their own. Now they want a deal and they want me to put the paint on. And like, they tried to cut the painter out anyways. Okay, well, are you compassionate to that? A lot of the repaints I do end up becoming friends with these people. Because that's like word of mouth. Okay, yeah, I know this guy, he'll come and do it. And you come and it's like, same thing. Even if there's this little bit of like, I want it this way, I want it done like that, I already have the paint. It's like, okay, all right, cool. No, it's cool. Let's talk about this. You know what I mean? It's not, you shouldn't always get on the defense right away, but that comes down to, like I'm saying, guys, to how professional you are when it comes to running your company. It's the customer service game. Is the customer always right? Can you swallow that down in certain situations? And you need to gauge that. That's a big thing because we're in a customer service game. A long time ago when I first started working, 2 European guys, they said to us from the beginning, especially with the new home custom builds, if you don't do touch-ups and don't want to do touch-ups, do not be a painter, do not get in this game. It is a part of our industry, a big part. And the customer service industry for a painter is huge. And it's because it's, Topline's motto from the beginning when I first started with my first logo and first branding and my first website, and I still use this saying till today: you build it, we bring it to life. You can have an amazing carpenter, drywall, you can have all these things, but when the painter comes in, especially with the custom home game, we're the ones bringing this to life. This is a black and white, and then we come in and bam, and it brings it to life. But it's also the aesthetics, the lipstick, it's everything on top. So there's a lot of shit that can get damaged. That 100%. Maybe not so much in the repaint game. When it's come in, you repaint some walls, homeowners are there. By the time they're done moving the furniture, you're probably already still there to hit a couple things for them, right? But when you got all these other trades coming through, you can get a lot of damage and get a lot of stuff. That's part of the game. It's a big time part of the game. I don't know where you guys are, but where we are here, a lot of the builders here, they do have a really high bar, and the craftsmanship is really good. You're going to find the hacks and the guys that want to get in and out, even in the custom game, and you're like, what is this? Like, maybe the carpenter didn't sand it. Drywall has high patches, stuff like that. Who knows? Once again, that could come down to the builder. And then that once again comes down to you. What do you want? How do you want to run your company, yourself, your image, your reputation? It all is involved in the whole. Is the customer always right? Because I know tons of guys that would probably be like, no, F that, no way. If you don't know, like I learned this in the commercial game, because it's really crazy in the commercial game sometimes when you have these young supervisors with the white hard hats and they're watching you all the time. They get their eyes on you, but they could never do what you do. Right. And it's like, okay, well, and they're saying, hey, that's wrong. I was like, well, why is it wrong? This is like maybe one way you could do this or that. They never want to listen to you, and then it always comes down to especially in those commercial games, just do what he says, just do what he says. Even if it's garbage or it's crap or it's slightly wrong or someone would have done different, it's like, they're never wrong. So it's a tough one, because when you're hiring a professional, you'd think like, man, you're hiring the professional. Wouldn't you listen? Wouldn't you listen to us? That's why you hired me. Like back to the repaint thing. I know I keep going back and forth here, guys, with this, but it really, like I said, comes down more to your representation, because no matter where it is, commercial, repaint, new home, it all comes down to how well can you swallow what you've gotten yourself into. That's probably best way of saying it, because I'm saying that you've got yourself into it because you're in a game where you're quoting jobs, you're up against competition. Clients are, in my opinion, getting smarter nowadays, even though I think that we're getting a little bit more, I wouldn't say dumber, stupider. Is that even a word? But people aren't, they think because they go online and they see all this stuff, they read all this stuff, they see these videos, it's dangerous. It kind of makes me think of that interview with Denzel Washington when he talks about the news, because it's the responsibility of people to give out the good information. It's like the journalists. It comes down to them, like Denzel Washington said to them. Well, that comes down to you and doing what's right, which is crazy because I just realized comes right back around to the customer as well. Even if you don't know, it's better to say, I don't know. That's why I'm hiring you. I'm trusting you. So they need to know their shit and know like, okay, I've looked this guy up. He's good. He's bad. He's this or that. You know what I mean? But it comes down to all of us, right? To make sure we put out the right information for people, because people are getting smarter. They're going online and they're looking this up, how to paint a room or how to do this. And they've got this info already in their head before you even walk through the door. And then if you get to the real crafty people, it's like they've already seen the videos online. They've already read about it, and they've already seen the other two guys in your town that are doing what you're doing. And you're damn right that some of those guys are going to try and, arm wrestle you right down to the very wire for a cheaper price, or for doing it like this, or use this paint, or this guy did it this way. So, it's scary, because you have to be able to swallow that down, because you're getting yourself into that position. You're saying like, okay, I want this job. I possibly want to work with this person. And that's the way it is, right? So how well can you swallow that? My dog's barking in the background right now. How well can you swallow doing the customer service game, especially in the higher end market with higher end clients, designers, people who are really going to stick it to you to make sure that they're going to get this really high bars, quality product or job done. And it really does depend on what you can put out also, right? So that's what I'm saying. Know yourself. You definitely need to know yourself. You need to know your customer. You need to know your demographic. You need to know what you can put out, because like I said, that whole last 10 minutes of that was a whirlwind of all of it cycling and circling around, and it all affects, it's all matters. It all comes around in full circle, right? But I just find it really hard sometimes to swallow that, because there are a lot of things that can happen if you always bend to the customer. It can really be hard on you and your morals, and being like, I didn't want to do that. Like, I didn't want to do that. How do I leave that when the customer sort of can put you in a situation, especially with the buying their own paint, right? Like that's what's so funny. Sometimes they want to buy you the paint. Here's a good example. This is a long time ago when I first started taking on my first side jobs on the side. I'd work by the hour. I'd work my butt off all through the week. And then on the weekends, I'd take side jobs sometimes, right? And I did this job. It was a Benjamin Moore product. I'd never even used Benjamin Moore at the time. I was young. It still rang out across the industry, or not the industry, the custom game, I should say, that, Ben Moore was overpriced and it wasn't worth it. Okay. So get this job, do it with my brushes, my rollers, all that. She buys the paint. Okay. So she buys the paint. Great. Bring it over. We do it, yada, yada, yada. Then you could see this picture frame. And thinking back now, and now having more experience in the game, I'm thinking to myself, okay, did I not box the paint? Well, no, because the 1 gallon did it enough. It wasn't the boxing of the paint, every gallon hit the area that it needed to be. I didn't have to, start again on a fresh gallon on a roll coat or something like that, right? But there was this picture frame. You could see the roll from the cut, okay? And, I haven't thought about this for a while, but now there's so many things that went through my head being more experienced now that I'm like, maybe it was this, maybe it was that, maybe it was that, maybe it was this. But in that situation, by the end of it, she noticed it. So she wanted me to redo it, which right there, customer's always right. I just say, okay, no problem, ma'am. You bring the paint again, I'll put another coat on. We'll get this straightened out. We'll fix it. Don't worry. Let's do it. So she shows up the next day and brings me a special roller. And apparently Benjamin Moore has these special rollers. These sleeves work the best for some of their products. You have to use this roller, yada, yada, yada. Okay. So it's like, fine, we do it. Here's one thing that aggravated the shit out of me is that she sat there and watched me the whole time. Almost like to make sure, and this was the type of client that she was very, very intelligent, but she knew it all. And that's really hard for me because, it's hard for me now to think that, because see, that's the thing, guys. Like, I was in a spot at that point in time where I couldn't really back myself up because I wasn't experienced enough. She knew it all. And even if I was experienced enough, am I going to really go down, the rabbit hole with this lady going back and forth about who's right or no, don't worry about it. We do this all the time. Our rollers work. Yeah, it's an upsell. You don't need that roller, this and that, yada, yada, yada. Long story short, roller seemed to have worked. She was happy. I got paid, blah, blah, blah. But like I said, choking that down. There were so many times in that situation when I wanted to be like, lady, like, oh my gosh. But once again, where do you stand? Do you know where you got to know yourself? And at that time, I couldn't come back and be like, well, and argue with her about it's not the role, it's this or that. But it's just like, I was just like, okay, so I had to swallow that one down. There's one for the record books that I learned a lot from that job on how to be prepared for certain situations. I think a lot of guys rush it. Like I've always said in all the podcasts, let's not put the cart before the horse. People are rushing this stuff to get out there. And I understand that it's probably that world that we're living in right now, even the whole FOMO thing, the fear of missing out. But anything that's good takes time. And those were always experiences like that prepared me to, to sell, I guess, because I never really had to go door to door to door. It was always a referral thing. But when it comes to estimating, you're selling. You're selling at that point. It doesn't matter if you've been referred, if you went door to door, if you had to scream from the hilltops to get work. As soon as it goes to quoting a job and that they're getting other quotes, you're selling right then and there. So a little couple pro tips, guys, is like, how do you present yourself? Present yourself professionally. Know your value. Know what people are like. If someone's paying for something from you, they got to know why. That's the biggest thing. You need to explain to them and say, okay, this is why it's this much. This is why this is this much. And then in turn, over time, that's when we got, into the price packaging. Call it what you want, ABC, call it gold, platinum, diamond, silver, even though that was totally the wrong way. But you know what I mean? Because I think that's one quick sidebar there too. It's like, how do you want to present yourself? Do you want to present yourself as really professional and arrogant, really professional and you're amazing? Just make sure you back that up. Because I think the whole diamond, bronze, silver, that's just a different way of saying, okay, this is your A package, this is your B package, It just sounds more professional when you add a name to it, It's all about branding, marketing, selling, right? But when it comes down to, is that customer always right? Yoku yakusama wa kamisa desu, that's Japanese for the customer is God. Der Kunde ist König, that's German for the customer is king, And like I said, when I looked this up and read about this stuff online, these are some of the biggest retail people that have ever been in the game across the world. And they feel like the customer is always right, make it right, but it comes down to what they're saying is to that trust, right? So they need to trust you. So you better make sure you have all your ducks in a row because you're selling yourself at that point. But I think when it comes down to the nitty gritty, like I was saying, once you get that job, there's nothing worse than having somebody make you feel like now you got to explain it all over to them again. Well, why did you? And well, hey man, that's not what you mean, and it's like, well, this is what you agreed upon. This is what you got. If not, you got more. If you treated them great, the customer service was great. If you were clean, if you were punctual, if you guys looked good, everything looked great, Don't show up like you just smoked like 5 cigarettes, and show up and you smell like, whatever, bourbon, you know what I mean? But, and I'm not saying, but I'm just saying, look professional, because that's, I think it's like a chess game. You come into a job, let's paint a picture here. You come into a job, to quote it. You look around right away. The person's looking at you. You're looking at them. You're looking at the situation. And I don't care what anybody says. It becomes this judgment game, It's like, oh man, this place looks pretty nice. Wow, these guys are really clean. Or it's like, oh God, Jesus Christ, what the hell happened here? Yeah, no doubt you need this place repainted or whatever it might be, right? Or, oh God, this is what the carpenter left me. Or, oh man, that's the drywall. It's like, So you got to start, the judgments start happening. You start coming down the line. Okay, so what do you need? Oh, what do you do in this? Oh, I just want this. I want that, right? So you see what they want. Then it's going to come down to that estimate again. It's like, okay, here's how I'm going to price it, right? And then once again, what caliber are you going to give them? And it's like that sales game once again, because it's like, well, maybe I want this job. And that's another thing, guys. Don't rush it. Don't put the cart before the horse. Know where you stand. What value you can bring to them, because if you're overcharging them, you're not going to get the job. You're undercharging them, man, that can really bite you in the ass. And if you're trying to stay in the middle, that's a great place. But staying in the middle also is like, this guy that, or that guy this. So it's a dangerous game. So you kind of got to start feeling them out right from the beginning, because when it comes down to payment in the end, keep your fingers crossed, most of the time you're not going to have that. But when it comes down to the problems or the fixes or hey this, hey that, it's a really hard thing to choke down. It's really hard for some people to always just, shake it off and be like, yeah, you know what, the customer is always right. Because let's be freaking honest. There's tons of times, a lot of times actually, even professionals, builders, GCs, designers are a big one, that they have no idea. And I think that they know about what they know, but it takes a hell of a lot more of accumulation of people working together to get a job done well, right? So it's like a lot of these people don't know. So that's why you better make sure you know, because you're going to be the one to sell it, to prove it to them, to let them know what they're getting and stuff like that, right? Because it's your name on it. That's the one thing I always tell people when they ask me, oh, can you use a different paint? Or I've already started this, or you're touching somebody else's work, or you're fixing somebody else's work. I always tell them right off the hop, I don't warranty any of this. It ain't mine. It's on you. And then it's like, well, just do it. Even if they pay me what I want, I honestly sometimes say, don't tell anyone who did this. And a lot of people are probably gonna be like, oh man, that's dirty. That's hard. That's a rough one. That's harsh. Like, how could you? But at the same time, it's no different than guys really wanting a job, dropping their price, dropping the caliber of it so they can get the job done, even if the customer is happy and the next guy comes along. It's like, oh, damn. Well, do you want the job or not? So it's a tough one. But at the same time, it's like, if I'm doing these things for you to make you happy, don't turn around and tell people, oh, this company did this company did this. Oh, you should call them. Because guess what? Back to that lady. She was happy. She called me back. Oh, no, this is actually, So I painted that lady's house, all good. Go next door. She refers me. I go next door. See, there you go. So that worked out because she referred me. I go next door. I paint the inside and the outside of her house, okay? Then she sees me do the next door neighbor's exterior. She says, oh, I could do a couple like this. But then there was me. See, I was like, man, I do not want to work with this lady again. I'm overpricing it. And she goes about saying to me, like, price mine. And my neighbor on this side now wants her exterior done because she's seen you do the neighbor on that side's exterior. So we both want them done. I'll put a word in for you. Okay, cool. So I quote the one to the left of her. I painted the one to the right of her. And I gave her a quote. She comes back to me and tears a strip off me and says, you want to charge me that when you charge this neighbor next door this? And there was nothing I could say to the other client because I liked that client. They were such sweet people. I wanted to give them a deal. I helped them out. I threw it all in because I did inside and outside, so I gave them a deal. You think I could explain that all to the first lady? No way. So she was pissed at me because I overcharged her, but I didn't want to work with her and I didn't want to tell her that. And then because of that, she trashed me to the other neighbor on the left and I didn't get that job either. right? So it's, man, like, think about that. You know what I mean? That's a tough one, because it put me in a spot where it's like, man, yeah, the customer is always right. But at the same time, it's like, you don't know, lady. I charged this lady that because of this, and this. I'm going to charge that lady over there that because of this, and this. Now you're bitching at me because you want me to charge. Yeah, because you had this involved. Didn't matter what I said to her. She just had to have it her way. She was like, okay, so I didn't get either of those other two jobs. Glad I got the one from the other side. The lady did apologize to me. She said, I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to. I was like, no. I don't expect you to lie for me about that. Tell her what you paid, But, this came back to what I was saying. But sometimes I tell people, don't say anything. Because it's like, she's not going to understand. He's not going to understand. They're not going to understand. The builder might not do this or that. Or so it's like, you got to be careful. Once again, it comes down to you knowing where you stand and what you can do, right? Because like I said, the customer, majority of the time in my books, I would vouch for the customer is always right. But there's a ton of times where I've not backed down, and I will not back down. Here's the thing, guys. Big thing for me, even though you guys see me crushing all the time, working a ton, a lot of that's for reputation. I could really give a hoot about money. Of course, it's a necessity, and I like it. Who doesn't? And it's like, it creates security for me and my family, and I can give my family things that maybe we couldn't have before when we were younger, But money does not control me, so I don't let people scare me with money. But I've put myself in a position, back to the value, back to the estimating. Save your money so you can pick the jobs you want to do. So when you have to deal with high-end clients or pain in the butt clients who want to try and step and run over you, you have that. Go ahead. You think you know, lady, you know best? I didn't need those two jobs from that lady, But I'm going to be professional about it. I'm never going to ever, be rude to them. Sometimes you just have to put your foot down, because sometimes people are just wrong. I know tons of designers, love every single one of them, but sometimes there's wrong decisions made due to application. No matter who it is in the trade game, especially in the high-end game, it's like, what? They want to do what? You know how hard that's going to be to do? That's what they want. It's their vision. Okay. And then you start going like, well, I didn't quote it that way, and you're going to pay this for that. And it's like, what? And it's like, what? Like, what do you mean? So that's a tough one, right? Because sometimes you have to be like, no. But there's other times that at the end of the day, the client wants what the client wants. And if they're paying for it, they're going to want what they want, So it does it come back to they're always right? No. But especially in the design world, when they have a vision, including the homeowner, because it's not just the designer, it's the homeowner saying, this is what I want. Okay, we can make it happen. And sometimes I can't, but somehow we make it happen. The ants always make it happen. You know what I mean? Grasshoppers, well, that's a whole different story for a different podcast probably. But you know what I mean? So it's like, you have to put your foot down sometimes, guys. But you have to have something to back that. And even if you don't run a professional game and you just don't want the job and you're saying, you can't run me, okay, cool. No, I'm not going to do that. No, that's not good paint. But compromise, be fair, be rational, have the compassion, because the compassion for the client, well, it depends. If you come right through the door and you can tell, man, this guy's a dink, or holy crap, who pissed in your cereal? Like, gosh darn. That's the part of the customer service game. That's the part of the customer is always right that I don't like. And I would hate it if I was in the restaurant industry. God bless waiters and waitresses, because man, the shit that they have to deal with sometimes is nuts. You could pop a hair out of your head and throw it in your food and be like, hey, Maltre D, hey, get your ass over here. This is garbage. What is it? And then you can go on Yelp. And you can say, I had a terrible salad. And then people start going back and forth. Well, if you didn't want it, you could have stayed home and cooked. Don't come to the restaurant and listen to that. It's like, okay, that's what I'm talking about. That's the kind of stuff that I wouldn't, want to happen being a customer or, providing a service. Because there's nothing, it feels very like, oh, this is pathetic, like just give them what they want, keep them happy. There's been tons of times I've walked away from money. Especially with the builders. One guy here in town, I didn't care. whatever it is, 13, 14, 2 grand, whatever it was, I can't remember. I was like, I am not coming back. How many times am I going to touch this place up for you? Here's a perfect example. I am not going to keep coming back over and over and over again. And then you make me go to the client to get paid. So now the homeowner is stuck in the middle. This is one of the only times in my career ever I've had a homeowner calling me to be like, hey, so when are you coming back? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And they were like, well, you said like, the builder said that there was like this and this left for deficiencies and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I already did all that. Well, there's more now. It's like, what? So I talked to the builder. Oh yeah, I just do, they're never going to pay me unless we get it done. So it's like, he's thinking like the customer's always right, at the cost of me. Oh yeah, he'll come back. He'll say blah, 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 blah. It's like, well, pay up. Well, no, the homeowner doesn't want to pay. It was the most bizarre situation because literally this guy X'd himself out of the situation. He was pretty much just a project manager, just PMing. Smart as fuck, if you ask me, in my opinion. Shady and gross in terms of like what your reputation looks like, because a ton of guys in town, like, who would want to do that again? I'll never work for that guy again. He could double what it would cost. And honest to God, like I said, I'm not big on money, but if it was run the way it was run and all the same things happened, you couldn't even double what I would make. Because I'm like, no. So I go back again, look at all the stuff. Now they're partially living in this place because the schedule and the job was such a disaster, the way they turned this place over. So it's like, now I'm fixing stuff that's damage. And I know what everybody's saying, like, oh man, you put the bill in for that, you get paid for that. Yeah, when? After the 4th time I've been back. So finally, I just said, this was one of the very few times where, and I'm not saying this with pride. I'm saying this where it was like, oh, frick, man, now I got to have this conversation. Like, seriously, where I had to be like, listen, your builder should give you a punch list. He's going to give me the punch list. When that punch list is done, he's going to clear the job. But see what I'm saying? That guy wasn't sticking up for his trades. He wasn't defending us. He let us hang out to dry with the homeowner. So I just came down to the point where I had to play the chess moves. I had to Queen Gambit that shit. Spray King Gambit that shit, sorry. Where I had to be like, okay, yeah, sure, we'll come back. I need this much, and then I'm going to come back. So they say, okay, so I do that much. Say, okay, when you have these things done, you talk to your builder. It's terrible. It's like I said, bad for business. It's one of those things that that's why the customer is always right. That's a part of it, that it's bad for business, because then it's always like this freaking like, oh my God, it was so pathetic. Then okay. Oh yeah. Okay. You're going to come back for those things. Yeah. Okay. Here, we'll give you this. Okay. Here, hold back some of that. Cause I knew I was buying myself out of it. I just straight up was like, you know what, you take, okay, give me this. Okay. I come do the touch up. They pay me that. Okay. Now when you coming back for the rest, I ain't coming back ever. Then the builder starts messaging me. Hey, when you go, the homeowner's wondering when you go back. I'm like, bro, I'm never going back. Now you have whatever, 1,500, whatever it was, 12, 1,500 bucks, pay somebody else to do it. You're wasting my time. Because then, guys, it comes back to like, I think I've said this before. A lot of people will be like, dude, that's 1,500 bucks you just walked away from. Right. But that $1,500 and all that headache and all the back and forth is making me lose on stuff ahead of me. Other jobs that I'm doing. You honestly think I don't want to swear, but like, give me a fucking break. You really think that you're the only person I'm servicing? So trust me, it's hard, guys, in this type of industry to really swallow that slogan. The customer is always right. Like I said, I would practice it very strongly. I'm not telling anybody to do that, but don't let people walk all over you. The customer is always right. A majority of them are good. A majority of them do want either for you to just come and get it done, do a good job. Some people just want a decent job. Let's be real. Some people want an amazing job. But then it's going to come down to like, oh, okay, how crazy are you going to be? Who do I got today, Karen or Kevin? And then you got to figure that out, right? But it comes down to presentation and selling, because the customer is always going to be right. Sure, fine. It's cool. But it's like they're going to have complaints, and then sometimes they might feel cheated or deceived. It's a misrepresentation, of what is really going on sometimes. So you have to be able to back it, and you have to be able to, a majority of the times we get in, we bang jobs off, especially in the repaint game. Never have a touch up. Never have to chase people for money. I plan it that way through the job. I make it that way because I don't want to be freaking chasing people. But it's usually the way it goes. Sometimes you're going to have really picky clients, but we're used to that. In the high-end game with the designers, the homeowners, we're really used to that. And you know what? I kind of enjoy it because it's like when you get through, a couple Karens, couple Kevins, and then they still tap you on the shoulder after and they're like, wow, you did a great job. This is amazing. And sometimes it works out that way. Sometimes it's like, man, is this ever going to end? It makes me think of one guy online who I chat to quite a bit, Alfonso, Forza Painting. He's out of New York, and he jumped into a job. We've chatted about the job a few times. I wish I could have got on more with him, but I just got so busy. He wanted to get on calls and do that, and I really wish I could have. And we did a couple times. We had a great chat, but, he didn't message me not too long ago. And this is what I mean. This is customer service right here, because even though it was hell and a nightmare, even after I was like, well, yo, bro, are you like up? Are you ahead? Are you this? Are you that? Or are you at a point where you should maybe walk and save yourself any more losses, those inevitable losses? And he said, I could never do that. I couldn't burn that bridge and just walk on this guy, even though it was a nightmare. The scheduling was wrong. Then it's a back and forth blame game. Well, you should have been faster. It's like, well, dude, I was waiting for you. And it was all these things that put him in a spot where, wasn't fair, because at the same time, it's like the customer's always right. He's trying to do everything, especially if it's a high-end job where they're paying a lot of money. He's trying to do everything to make sure that client is happy. But the guy didn't reciprocate. He wasn't planning it properly. Every time he'd go into an area, it'd be full of tools or full of this or full of that, not clean. And it's like, how is he supposed to do his job properly for it to feel like that price is, like this is what you're, like you just paid, this isn't, I don't know what the job was, but let's say like you just paid $100,000. How do you justify paying $100,000 when I couldn't even do that great of a job because you made it that way for me? Oh, but it's on you. But you could have been it, could have been this and that. And it's like in the high end game, man, sometimes you just have to be like, okay, and bust through it. But my point to this is I know that by the time he's done that job and they all stand back together and look at what they've accomplished, even if it was a nightmare and the job still turned out well and all the trades did good, it feels really good. You step back, it's like you've been through battle, you've accomplished it all the while. Because like in the new home industry, guys, like that's probably a lot of stuff the guys like, that's the shit I'm staying away from. I don't blame you sometimes. Sometimes the repaint game is real good, especially if you get big jobs. Clients are great. They're freaking cooking you lunch, you're chilling. Sometimes you're in a nice property. You're sitting out on the deck. You're looking at the mountains, whatever it might be. It's beautiful. But once again, full circle back to who do you want to be? What kind of company do you want to have? What do you want to come off as? And how do you want to represent, the product you're going to give, because at the end of the day, it does come down to the clients, it comes down to the clients, the customers, the products, or what they want in a product, I should say. It comes down to the customers, the clients, and what they're getting for their money, So I think the education part is a big, big thing. Whether it's a builder, whether it's you, whether it's a middleman, these clients, people, GCs, builders, designers, they all need to be educated on the application process and what they're getting. Because the more you can educate them and the more they know, the more comfortable they're going to feel with you, the more they're going to be able to trust you, even if you can't trust them. Because some people just have trust issues, and I'm one of them. And, and it's not that it's like, oh, you have to open up. I think I've talked about this guy who tried to help me run my company a while ago. He was an older gentleman who ran a lot of successful businesses, rags to riches type story. And he used to always say that it just comes down to trust. You got to open up, Danny. You got to trust these people. 30, 60, 90 days sometimes in the big time games. That's what people are waiting for money. Customer service, because I was always nervous. Like I was always one of those guys. I was just like, I don't really trust this. I don't know if I want to do this. I don't know if I want to do that. Because like I said, I'm not money hungry, but sometimes I'm reputation hungry. I'm pride hungry. Paint hungry. Shit, it's about 5:03. I must be hungry. 5:03 on a Saturday. But either way, I've never been the type of person that, like I said, would want to bend, would want to give, and would want to ruin, like my morals on doing a job just for some money. I've never really wanted that. I never wanted, any part in that, to tell you the truth, because it's just, like I said, bad for business, sticky again. I don't want to be controlled. But I have also learned to lower my guard a little bit in terms of, okay, do I want this job? Do I want my reputation to, grow? Do I want my portfolio to grow as well? And that's why sometimes that can be a tricky one, because you want to trust people. At the same time, there are dishonest people out there. But also, again, to defend the customer, there's a lot of dishonest trades out there too. There's a lot of dishonest workers and products. So, like I said, know your worth, know where you stand and what you have to offer. Because at the end of the day, the customer is sort of always right. Sort of. Just don't let them walk all over you. Be prepared. Be professional. But just know what you're giving, because then, it's easier for you to back that up in the long run. It's easier for you to be able to approach the situation if there's ever a problem. Of course, be respectful. Always be respectful. Be professional. Be punctual. Be compassionate to their needs and their feelings, because that's super important, especially if you're doing repainting going into people's houses. They want to feel like they mean more than just the paint job, right? So, but that can be a tough one, guys, because there's a ton of times, like I said, where people are totally wrong, totally wrong. And do you want to, argue it to the death, or is that stuff that you have to swallow up and move on? And, even the people that might seem sour or Karen or Kevinish, they still got big mouths. So they still may refer you. I've had problems at jobs and like completely fixed it. Here's one good story. This is a good one. This would be a good story for one of the early day fuck ups. Painted this huge house. It was a repaint. Big mansion, doing it in sections. Do the one whole wing, one section. It was like a month or two later, do the other section when the people leave out of town. Rookie move, 100% rookie move. And I can admit to that. And I learned a lot from not even just the small mistake, but the whole experience, period. So when I go to paint the second half of this house, which kind of meets up in the middle, I painted one half with eggshell, one half with semi-gloss. And very high-end client. They're paying a ton of money for the repaint. One of the biggest repaint jobs I had, one of the first biggest repaint jobs I had. And it was one of those things where it's like, fuck. And that was the one and only time I had a client cry to me on the phone. Like, she was crying. She was in tears, and I could have probably thought of a million excuses as to, like, I probably could have got away with it, like literally, because it's like, well, I don't know what to tell you if you think it looks different, yada, yada, yada. But it's like, no, let's figure it out together. They're paying a lot of money, and it's coming down to, like, the customer's always right. You better get that shit fixed. So what happens? There I am now, out of pocket, go back, tape, remask this whole goddamn half of this house and spray it in semi-gloss and get it done for them. And they appreciated it so much, so much, because, like, she started crying because she probably thought, like, man, this could go really good or really bad. And, I was professional enough and made all the right choices and decisions and presented myself in a way it's like, whoa, we'll fix this. Because some people don't even give you the chance to fix it. Some people are just freaking cheesed right away. But some people, you got to know how to, control the situation, and show them, like, hey, people make mistakes. I'm sorry. I'm going to fix this for you. It's going to be like I wasn't even here. And that's what I did. And honestly, it got me so many more jobs. It could have went from bad to worse to even worse, but it's just like, okay, regroup, restructure, screwed up, put it behind you. Because that's sometimes the one thing that guys, they just start getting flustered in this and that. And then it comes down to that maybe sometimes they want to blame the client. Remember, the client's always right. So it's like, you got to be careful. Well, maybe the client's always right until you prove them wrong. But how you go about that too can be dangerous. You don't want to come off arrogant and make these people look like a bunch of idiots either, right? But you also want to have your back covered, right? So, like I said, at the end of the day, did the right thing, presented it well, was professional about it, came back, blasted it off, was clean. It was like it didn't even happen. And she was happy. and very appreciative. And she referred me to many more jobs after that. I've gone back to service the house many times after that. And not service even my work, just like, well, I'm going to get you to do all this stuff. Sweet. So, and then once again, like I said, became good friends with them, very good friends with them. And that's how it goes, So I guess what I'm saying in a nutshell here, guys, is if you have the customer always right in the back of your mind, it'll help keep you at a level where it's just a reminder. We used to always say this before, like, would you want that in your house? Look at that. That looks like freaking shit. Would you want that in your house? That's kind of how we always thought about it. So it's the same thing. It's like, like I said, there's a line. Sometimes people are just dishonest and greedy and selfish and they just want it. But at the same time, it's a majority of people are good. I think a lot of the majority of people are good. So, just be prepared because we're in a big time customer service game more than anyone else. Like, honest, I don't know. All the other trades might think is different, but come on. I'm going to explain it to you quickly right now. And I'm going to try and do this without it being like a mind fuck. But you go into a house, if you spill paint on the tile, they're going to want you to clean it, not the tile guy to clean it. But if the tile guy mashes up your wall, who the hell's going to fix it? The tile guy? You can think that tile guy's going to get all mud and stuff like this and a brush and roller and fix your work. So we're always going to get this shit on, no matter what. Someone comes along with the tool belt, dings the wall. That guy's not coming back and fixing it. You're fixing it. You go over there and fuck up that electrical box. Yeah, maybe Buddy's going to fix it because, of course, it comes now down to something where it's like, well, so they need somebody who's like certified in that. He's going to come and fix it. Sure. But you best know that next time these guys aren't going to take care of your shit. So it's like, just be prepared for that, I guess is what I'm saying. Know that we're in an industry that that's what it comes down to, the customer service game. It's just what it's all about, and like that piece I posted. I don't want to say I said it because I definitely didn't say it. The piece I posted about the Walton guy there was saying, the customer can fire anybody anytime, all the way from the CEO down to the worker, just by strictly taking his business somewhere else. Right? So that's why I always keep that in my mind. Customer's always right. Even if in the back of my mind, I'm just like, oh, this Karen's gonna catch one. I'm sure some people feel that way sometimes, but it's like you got to swallow it down and know. And then say to yourself, is it worth it? Is this job even worth it for me? So that's what I'm saying. Know where you stand, guys. Know your value. Because at the end of the day, it's like I said, that evolving all around circle, that's going to make the decision for you. Right? So in recap, guys, is the customer always right? That really, I think, it does come down to you. I definitely can say that the customer can be very wrong at times, very, very wrong. And as a professional, it's our job to guide them, lead them in the right direction, And if there's other people out there that aren't doing their due diligence and that, and like I said, even about the videos or putting your work out there, doing a good job, because like I said, that's going to come down to also the next guy and the client. The client might see something and think it's this or think it's that, and then they'll be wrong. And then it makes all of our jobs a lot harder. So if we're all just honest, we do a good quality job, we educate our clients, it'll be better in the long run, right? Because like I said, guys, clients, customers, people, buyers, they're getting smarter. And the technology is making it easier for them to know about stuff that we might even forgot about, It's like, they might bring something up where it's like, what? You're going to reference that? And it's like, oh, yeah, I guess. And you're like, what the hell? People are getting smarter, right? But it's also making them dumber and stupider. So you have to be careful of that too. So I think that is a hard one. It is a hard one, guys. But hopefully this helped. Maybe I just blabbed on and on and on. But if I kept you busy today, or if you're working alone, a shout out to my homie at Bristol Patina there. He messaged me the other day, said, dude, you and Dennis were talking the other day on that 3-hour podcast. It was awesome, man. Coming from somebody who works alone, it was like having my homies right there. And man, I hope that I can reach people like that. If you're working right now and you're enjoying your day, or you're not enjoying your day, and this podcast has helped you get through the day, I sure hope I didn't just blab and go in circles. But like I said, guys, in conclusion, it does really come down to you and how you want to be, and your reputation and the compassion you have for for really continuing to get more work and continue working in an industry like this. It's a great industry. One of the best trades. Like I said, we bring stuff to life. We change interiors, exteriors, whatever it might be. We change it for people and we give them fresh, new looks. And it really feels good, and the customer, they just want that and they want to feel that. So, give it to them. And if it comes down to, this guy just wants to be right, sure. You say it's black, I say it's white. Okay, you can have it black. Okay, I did a great job. Am I going to get paid? Yes. Okay, thank you. See you later. So just be able to choke that down, guys, and know that that's the industry we're in. It's a high customer service game, and even if you're like, well, not me, I mean, my boss deals with that. Well, good for you, but have a little appreciation. Think about it a little harder now. Maybe you can think about it a little harder after listening to this and help out for the greater good. I think that's what my point is, guys, because everything we put out there, everything we learn, everything we do, it's going to come back to us trying to sell that to somebody. Or you working for a company who's trying to sell that to somebody. And even if they're a pain in the butt and they always want to be right or they don't want to be wrong, it comes down to us as professionals, especially with what we do in the trade we're in, to act professional and do a good job. So thanks for tuning in, y'all. Stay tuned. I really appreciate you guys listening to another episode of the Real Paint Talks of PSC. Please check me out on YouTube, like, subscribe. I've been a little slow on the Instagram right now, but I'm working on a few things, so stay tuned because I'll have little sneak peeks of everything I'm putting out. But once again, if this helped you today, much love and thank you so much for listening. It is all very much appreciated. I got much love for the paint community that's going on right now, and how cool it is for all of us to engage like this on these platforms the way we can nowadays. So have a great rest of your day, great week, great life, great night, great whatever it is. Much love. Peace.